Chongqing is undoubtedly an incredibly fun
But when
city.
it comes to the best attractions here,
I think it probably has to be Chongqing's only UNESCO World Heritage
the Dazu
site.
Rock Carvings, a grand artistic complex that epitomizes ancient rock carving and Buddhist art,
Powerful enough to leave every visitor speechless.
this magnificent art collection.
And with the explosive popularity of Black Myth Wukong as one of the filming locations, the Dazu Rock Carvings have finally returned to the public spotlight. In our previous video, we already covered in detail
The travel and transportation guide to Dazu Baodingshan rock carvings,
explaining the rock carvings from the Yuanzhou Cave to the Huayan Three Saints section. Interested viewers can jump directly to watch that.
and in this video,
Please follow the up host's camera. Let's continue to appreciate the even more spectacular
and more magnificent second half of the Dazu Rock Carvings.
So this is Normanding, this episode's solo travel.
Let's start with this piece.
This Guanyin niche is 77 meters high, 125 meters wide, with Guanyin Bodhisattva seated in the center in full lotus position, guardians and attendants standing on both sides.
This is absolutely
A masterpiece among the Dazu Rock carvings,
even looking nationwide
in the theme of thousand-handed Guanyin,
which can be called overused. This statue
can be considered one of the top finest works.
not to mention anything else.
Just the most obvious highlight. Although we always say thousand-handed Guanyin, but just like a million troops rarely number a million, thousand-handed Guanyin rarely actually has 1,000 hands.
After all, the technical difficulties are obvious.
So builders generally don't insist on that.
Making 20 or 30 hands is roughly good enough to convey the idea. If you come across some abstract ones, for example, like our friend, Mr. Qianlong, whom we haven't mentioned in several episodes, he once created a 1,000-handed Guanyin with only 2 hands. That kind of epic fail.
But the craftsmen of Dazu Rock Carvings,
They were different. They're really all about keeping it real. Their dedication is like the Nolan of stone carving. According to detailed stats from the latest major restoration, this 1,000-hand Guanyin statue
has over 830 arms meticulously carved, with more than 200 hands holding ritual instruments.
the variety of these instruments
Far exceeds what is recorded in Buddhist scriptures. You could say it is absolutely exaggerated.
rounding up. It was really just short.
Of creating a bona fide 1,000-hand Guanyin.
But having many hands isn't the real skill due. Just like riding a white horse doesn't make you a prince.
It could also be the Tang monk.
Someone with 1,000 arms, all tangled and stacked together. Done right, it is Guanyin Bodhisattva.
Done wrong, it is Chinese Cthulhu.
And this stone carving at Baodingshan truly achieves complexity without chaos.
Grandeur without bulk. The lines of over 800 arms are smooth and natural,
Creating an intense sense of solemnity and reverence.
It is truly an unparalleled artistic treasure.
No wonder in Black Myth Wukong they used this masterpiece.
In such a crucial side quest.
Tell me,
Which Black Myth player hasn't been under this carving?
tormented by that agile old trickster Wukong, getting brutally owned and totally tilted right.
How could you know how my heart ached when I struck?
Screw you. Go talk to my charged poke stick. But speaking of fighting for so long, I bet many viewers are wondering, why does this Guanyin statue look
So brand new.
That is because the 1,000-hand Guanyin at Baodingshan
Just had a major restoration in 2015.
while the carving itself remains original,
The gold leaf on it is completely refreshed. So many people criticize, saying the restoration was overdone. It looks straight out of the factory and lost its original vibe. But actually, there is a reason for this. I did some research on this, just for your reference though.
not like I'm an expert or anything. When we talk about restoring buildings,
Yeah, we say keep the old look. But the thing is,
those ancient structures we preserve, the original parts.
they gotta be solid enough to last.
Right.
If parts are clearly damaged,
And we just leave them as is. That is not preserving the old. That is letting it rot away.
take this Guanyin statue, for example.
Look at the old photos before restoration.
You can see the original gold foil on it was seriously warped and peeling off. Plus, the damage was pretty bad. See the gold on the outside? It is not just for show or to look rich. It actually protects the inner rock from getting worn down.
But before the fix, the 1,000-hand Guanyin carving
Was so corroded, even one of the thumbs fell off.
like totally.
You could say it was in really rough shape. That is why it needed emergency repairs.
Actually, the restorers' first thought
was to clean up the old foil and stick it back on. But that aged gold just wouldn't adhere properly. So they went with new stuff. 'Cause 比起 risking damage for some old vibe,
fixing the actual problems. So these precious artworks
can stick around longer. That is what really matters. Not to mention, compared to some, well, let's not name names, but those botched restorations. This statue just looks a bit newer, but honestly, it is pretty thorough work.
And anyway, I think, in fact, there is no need to worry. You will look at the new.
Isn't that brand new from the factory?
You put it in a few decades to see. Maybe the taste is right.
Right? Let the dust fly for a while.
Norman Top, are you awake?
After watching the shocking thousand-handed Guanyin, continue forward. It is one of the most magnificent statues in the Dazu Rock Carvings. Sacrament of Sakyamuni Nirvana. It depicts the Buddha at the time of the Nirvana of Sakyamuni. I have to explain here.
It is called Nirvana. Concepts in Buddhism, it doesn't mean Sai anymore. It means that the practitioner has reached the highest level.
Dazu is a kind of separation from the flesh.
Beyond the state of perfection, in the cycle of life and death. So almost all of these works, Sakyamuni's look, are full of peace and joy.
Sakyamuni Nirvana,
it should be among Buddhist works one of the most common themes, but it is also one of the less innovative themes. After all, a big man like Buddha,
its state of nirvana.
There are also very detailed records in the scriptures. So we see the Buddha Nirvana. Basically, this is the shape of the right hand lying on the lower side.
But look all the way. I believe you feel it too. One of the biggest characteristics of Dazu stone carvings.
It is always in places you can't think.
Hide some of the builder's little ingenuity.
In popular terms, it is. This is a very living sense of stone.
The stone carvings have a sense of being alive.
It seems a little scary.
That is what it means.
You guys understand.
The first and most notable feature, this is a bust of Sakyamuni. Its feet are hidden in the rock wall.
This is due to the initial excavation.
The size of the rock wall cannot meet the design scale. So the little smart ghost among the craftsmen. So I designed this half-body Buddha. By hiding the feet, it creates a sense that the frame can't contain it all.
A feeling of immense grandeur. At the same time, 2 fewer feet were carved. A blatant example of cutting corners.
Turns out, laziness really is the mother of all creativity. Next, let's talk about this row of small figures in front of Buddha.
They're also pretty interesting. On one hand, they use the same technique as the earlier Huayan Trinity statues. The smallness of the human figures accentuates the sheer enormity
of the Buddha statue. On the other hand, this gave the chief engineer of Belding Mountain Stone Carvings
a perfect opportunity to sneak in some personal touches.
Take a closer look at these 2 figures in the front row. Both their poses and actions stand out much more prominently. The one right at the front with the curly hair.
Not sins upon sins. That curly-haired guy is Zhao Shifeng, the creator of Belding Mountain Stone Carvings. And the person next to him,
that's his idol.
Liu Benzong, an important figure of esoteric Buddhism in the Sichuan Chongqing region.
For more on these 2, check out our previous video.
According to Buddhist scripture,
when the Buddha entered nirvana,
his disciples were indeed gathered around him,
listening to his final teachings.
But no matter which scripture you refer to,
I'm pretty sure these 2 weren't there. So in this artwork,
what I'm most curious about
is Ananda, who's been blocked by these 2 guys.
As one of Buddha's disciples, known for his photographic memory, I bet he was utterly confused at this point.
What's going on here? I don't remember you 2 being there. But hey, it's not like it's a big deal, right? After all, one of them came in with funding.
Zhao Shifeng, the chief designer and sponsor of Belding Mountain. When it comes to taking group photos,
who wouldn't want to stand in the center with their idol?
Can't blame him for that. Lastly, we need to mention
the water channel in front of the Buddha.
When we talked about the Yuanjie cave in the last episode, we touched on this topic as well. The waterproofing techniques inside the Belding Mountain stone carvings are quite advanced
and
artistic.
Incredibly ahead of their time and full of creative
The small river you see here follows a similar idea. It draws inspiration from a highly syncretized part of the story of Shakyamuni's Nirvana. You know, the kind of tale that feels deeply rooted in Chinese Buddhism. Legend had it that, as the Buddha was about to enter Nirvana, many people gathered around his side, unwilling to let go, heartbroken and clinging to the moment. Take Ananda, for example. Still young at the time, he was overwhelmed with grief. Uncontrollably begging, pleaded, hoping the Buddha would bring him too. Unable to bear seeing everyone so distraught, Shakyamuni performed a miracle, a great river to separate himself from the crowd. And just like that, he created distance between them.
This river,
well, it's supposedly the Yellow River with its 9 bends today. But wait!
No, that can't
Hold on, isn't this version Chai Wei too localized? Alright then!
So did the Buddha achieve nirvana on the Lost Plateau or something?
Anyway, the water channel in front of us now serves two purposes. IT recreates that legendary scene while also functioning as a drainage system. Its dual purpose prevents water accumulation near the carvings.
Pretty clever design, if you ask me. Truly ingenious. If you follow this waterway further ahead, you'll come across another breathtakingly beautiful stone carving.
The 9 dragons bathing the crown prince motif. This one even made an appearance in some mythological tales. Earlier we talked about the story behind Shakyamuni's nirvana, but this next piece, well, it depicts the moment of Shakyamuni's birth. Might have heard about what happened when he was born. Here's the famous part. When Shakyamuni entered the world, he pointed one finger to the sky and another to the ground.
I alone
above heaven
am
and
supreme.
That iconic line is well known, sure.
But here's the thing. Most people don't realize. After he delivered those epic lines, there was more to the story. Let me break it down for you.
Think about it. If someone drops such a grandiose statement, like "Hi crickets," imagine the poor kid finishing his speech and just standing there awkwardly.
Wouldn't that feel weird? Totally awkward, right? So here's how the rest of the story unfolds. Right after Shakyamuni spoke those words, suddenly 2 Vajra warriors appeared holding up golden basins.
And the 9 mighty dragons flew in spewing warm and cool springs. They bathed the newborn Shakyamuni in a ceremonial cleansing.
A divine welcome.
No, this is what I call a proper setup.
Does this look like your average character to you?
That dragon.
And the design of this stone carving
is also full of clever little details.
It is positioned right in a mountain where rainwater and spring water gather.
The dragon's wide open mouth in the carving
is actually the natural outlet for the water
flow. Mountain spring water.
So it flows non-stop year-round right out of the dragon's mouth.
Now that is what I call a real water dragon.
But what is even more brilliant is that the water spitting out here through the reservoir in front of the carving connects to the channel by the nirvana scene of Shakyamuni. This way, it satisfies the water element in both artworks. Plus, through this channel, IT guides and drains the accumulated water from preventing erosion and damage to the carvings. And it is pretty rare how it adds
a sense of flowing movement to the static stone carvings,
almost giving off a hint of garden art vibes.
Brilliant. Pure skill. Sometimes I really feel these designers of the stone carvings, man, what a waste of talent. If you send them off to manage water control or hanofua prevention, they'd probably be top-notch at that too. Moving further left, we've got the Peacock Mingwang Sutra illustration.
This one's also super easy to recognize. When you see a big shot riding a peacock in Buddhist chances are it is Peacock Mingwang.
He is one of the main deities in esoteric Buddhism
and the most famous among the Buddhist Mingwang figures.
There are plenty of reasons for his fame, but among them,
we've gotta give some credit to Mr. Wukong.
Cause anyone who is seeing the Lion Camel Ridge episode can't forget this fierce character.
Back when the world was just beginning.
All living things had birds and beasts. Beasts were led by the Chiwen. Birds were led by the phoenix. The phoenix gave birth to the peacock and the rose. The peacock loved to eat people. Once swallowed me whole. I split over
and came to Ling Mountain.
I originally intended to take her life, but the celestial beings told me harming her would be like hurting my own mother. Thus, I left her at Ling Mountain.
Enthroned as the Buddha Mother, the great, bright King Peacock, Bodhisattva.
But let's backtrack a bit. Among the Bright Kings,
the Peacock Bright King is actually an exception.
The so-called Bright Kings
are a classic theme in esoteric Buddhism. To put their role simply,
if you can't understand Mahayana teachings, this humble monk also knows a thing or two about martial arts.
As the saying goes, 3 days without discipline, and they'll be climbing on the roof. And for those who remain stubbornly deluded or are trapped by demonic obstacles,
even the Buddha sometimes has to scold them awake
and drive away the demonic forces. And the Bright Kings are the manifestations of the Buddha's wrathful appearance under such circumstances.
But this Peacock Bright King is an exception,
due to his primary function being the quelling of disasters and the removal of poisons.
With expertise in healing and peacemaking, he has become almost the only Bright King
who appears with a gentle and compassionate image.
It makes sense if you think about it. Just look at this peacock's face.
I think no matter how ferocious someone is, taking such a pet on,
it would be hard to keep a straight face, right?
On either side of the stone carving, there are many other stone statues, depicting events related to the Peacock Bright King.
Also passing the Peacock Bright King is the Vairocana platform.
Together with the Yuanju Cave,
they are the only 2 grotto-style carvings on Baoding Mountain. At the center is the main statue of Vairocana Buddha,
his hands forming the Bodhi Mudra.
Surrounding him are carved bodhisattvas, Vajra warriors, and listening figures.
The entire grotto sculptural art is extremely exquisite,
especially some of the Vajra statues holding swords. Their armor and attire provide valuable physical evidence.
for studying the equipment of Southern Song warriors.
Further ahead are two very unique stone carvings. We have to talk about them together.
The Sutra of the Great Vows of Repaying Parental
and
Kindness.
the Sutra of the Buddha's Great Compassion in Repaying Kindness. Just hearing these two names,
it is like a thunderclap at the opening of a drum.
because from a certain perspective,
In Buddhist stone carvings, the appearance of traditional filial piety themes feels as real as the US and USSR forming an alliance.
of course, this doesn't mean Buddhism rejects filial piety.
But still, monks are monks, and leaving home is literally written into their identity.
So there are indeed significant differences
from Confucian filial culture,
as practitioners of Buddhism.
they can't stay at home to serve their parents, and they'll inevitably clash with the filial principle of no posterity is unfilial.
This was once a major obstacle during the spread of Buddhism into China. So, to put it dramatically, talking about filial piety within Buddhist themes is like preaching atheism in the Bible.
Discussing comedy during the Spring Festival, or talking about high heels in Norman Borlaug's videos. Completely contradictory.
Are you still with me?
To resolve this issue,
Starting from the late Eastern Han Dynasty,
many Chinese monks
began reinterpreting and restructuring Buddhist scriptures.
integrating traditional filial piety into Buddhist teachings. Yes, our age-old winning formula. Localizing things with a distinctively Chinese touch. And the two stone carvings before us are based on two texts created by Chinese monks, both focused on filial
The
piety.
Sutra of the Great Vows of Repaying Parental Kindness, and the Sutra of the Buddha's Great Compassion in Repaying Kindness. First, let's look at this depiction of the Sutra of the Great Vows of Repaying Parental Kindness. Its upper layer features carvings of the 7 Buddhas of the past, while the lower layer depicts a series of sculptures, illustrating the various kindnesses parents show to their children. The content is vivid and full of everyday life, extremely relatable. For instance,
This famous scene called pushing dryness toward wet, which shows a child wetting the bed at night. The mother worried that sleeping on wet bedding
might make the child sick, gently pushes the child to the dry side.
lay yourself on the wet side.
Many times, good for parents. He is embodied in
The dribs and drabs of this life. Probably just a small thing, but the memory is very touching. When I saw this work, it is also very touching. After all, as a child,
who has not been experiencing.
such a small thing.
In addition to this,
And the pregnant guardian, suffering in labor, breastfeeding, etc.
it is all about educating the world.
To repay the nurturing of parents.
If the parents are heavy,
The map is about the kindness of parents in the secular world.
the great convenient Buddha's return of grace and sutra.
That is what Buddha said.
Teach everyone how to be filial. This stone inscription is based on the scriptures. The content is also very interesting.
According to the Great Convenience, Buddha Sutra, one day Anan, it is the disciple of the Buddha we mentioned earlier, when Anan went out, saw a man is carrying his elderly parents with a burden,
Begging along the street.
very not easy to get food.
I can't bear to eat a bite. All of them were given to their parents to appease their hunger.
Anan is moved to see.
Suddenly came from the side of the 6th division outside the road. These few people, just like the modern internet, the bar essence is the same as the upper body.
Said to Anan,
You see how nice this man is.
how filial. We are so touched. Hey, look back! Your master Sakyamuni!
Although the self-proclaimed date, but abandoned their parents. Leave your wife and children. Let's see.
Not as good as this beggar.
Anan did not know how to refute it for a moment. So he went back to consult the Buddha. The Buddha seized this opportunity to gather all the bodhisattvas from the 3,000 great thousand worlds and preached the Sutra of the Buddha's repayment of kindness to set
great
the
skillful
record
means.
straight. And the other carvings on this stone relief are the various stories recorded in the Sutra,
About Shakyamuni himself and his past lives of practicing filial
such as
piety.
sacrificing his body to feed a tiger and cutting his flesh to feed his parents.
You can even see
The stone carving of the Buddha personally carrying his father king Shatadhana's coffin. It is not hard to see. This is indeed a bit too cynicized. Wow, the Buddha carrying a coffin.
friends who often bathe in the Ganges River know. Things like carrying coffins for burial in ancient India probably weren't very mainstream. Moving forward, another work that appeared in Black Myth.
The transformation tableau of the Sutra of Contemplation on the Buddha of
81
immeasurable light.
meters high and 202 meters wide.
3 meters, deep with a carved area of over 160 square meters. Its scale is so grand.
It is unparalleled among similar works nationwide.
According to the Pure Land School of Buddhism,
As long as people sincerely chant the name of Amitabha Buddha, they can be received by Amitabha after
and
that.
go to the Western Pure Land of ultimate bliss.
This is also why monks always say Amitabha Buddha.
The origin of that stereotype.
Hey, stop the music!
And what the transformation tableau of the Sutra of Contemplation on the Buddha of immeasurable light depicts
It's exactly this theme.
At the top carved are the majestic half-length statues of the Western three saints, Amitabha Buddha, Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva, and Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva, surrounded by carved jade palaces and towers,
depicting the scene of the Western Pure Land of ultimate bliss. At the bottom of the work, the 3 grades and 9 levels are carved.
Hey, what are the 3 grades and 9 levels?
This is really interesting.
As the saying goes, everyone can go to the Pure Land.
But some people get there faster than others.
Buddhism believes after death, people are divided into 9 levels based on their good and evil merits from past lives. If someone is of the highest grade and highest level, then after death, they will immediately be received by the Western three saints and personally taken to the Pure Land. But if they were evildoers during their lifetime as lower class beings, then after death, they must endure 12 kalpas within the lotus of the Pure Land world. After experiencing 12 kalpas, Guan Yin and the Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattvas will come to preach and absolve their sins and guide them to paradise.
Now, what does it mean to undergo 12 kalpas?
A kalpa
is a unit of time measurement.
1 kalpa is equivalent to about 186 billion years on Earth.
So we can reasonably deduce that
the first lower class being in the world, even today, is still waiting inside a prehistoric lotus for sin absolution. This shows that if you don't practice kindness in daily life and only turn to Buddha at the last minute,
even chanting Amitabha at the last moment won't help.
Moving forward,
there's another classic work, the Hell Transformation Scroll.
As the name implies,
this depicts a literal hellish scroll.
At the very top of the stone carving sits the Siddhigarbha Bodhisattva. On either side are
the famous 10 kings of hell.
After a person dies,
they will be judged here.
Those deemed heavily sinful
will be taken to various hells carved below the stone to endure eternal torment. No beating around the bush here.
Everything carved here is the most orthodox and familiar depictions of various tortures and cruel punishments. For example, this section depicts the so-called climbing the mountain of knives and being fried in oil cauldrons. And upon closer inspection, the one cooking the soup by the pot isn't a stranger.
Isn't that our brother Ma?
Brother Ma, you've worked hard. And since Brother Ma is here,
where is Brother Neil?
Brother Neil is busy in the neighboring sawing hell, creating more victims like Lisi.
Cracking hell jokes in front of the hell scroll feels good.
Are you feeling sober?
Given the horrifying and terrifying content, it fits perfectly with the dark theme of Sun Black myth. This image takes the crown without a doubt.
It was also transplanted into the game.
But amidst such a hellish scene,
one stone carving stands as an exception.
It's often the subject of lively chatter. This is the stone carving of the chicken-raising woman. A dignified and serene woman is lifting a chicken coop, while 2 chickens that escaped first are fighting over an earthworm. The other chickens are scrambling to get out of the coop. It's truly a simple rustic scene, full of life and pastoral charm. What a vivid depiction. Yet, such a woman is placed in the middle of hell. It's utterly baffling. The more official explanation suggests this is meant to emphasize the prohibition against killing living creatures. Killing results in being sent to hell and raising chickens for slaughter. Straight to hell, no questions asked.
Sounds a bit like those Western vegan groups, doesn't it?
On the other hand, there is a wilder version from local folklore, which is much more entertaining. It's said this chicken-raising woman was indeed a local from Dazu. During the carving of the stone sculptures, she cleverly capitalized on her business sense by frequently selling chickens to the workers for their meals. As a result, at the Building Mountain stone carving site, workers would carve Buddha statues during work hours, then gorge on meat during lunch breaks, a sight to behold. This really broke the monk Zhao Zhaifeng's composure.
Such disrespect! This is blatant disrespect towards the Buddha!
One time? Yes. The chickens wandered into the Buddha hall by mistake. They jumped around everywhere, disrupting the monk's meditation. Zhao Zhaifeng ordered them to be driven away. But in the process, a few chickens were accidentally killed. This completely shattered Zhao Zhaifeng's last nerve.
Evil karma! She sent this karmic burden to challenge me directly!
After all these frustrating incidents, Zhao Zhaifeng came to believe that all these troubles were caused by this chicken-raising woman. Her sins were just too heavy. So when creating the hell transformation tableau, he specifically demanded that this chicken-raising woman be carved into the scene. But the worker grandpas obviously have different opinions.
What the heck are you mumbling about?
After a day of hauling bricks,
who could resist a big chicken leg?
How could someone offering chicken be a bad person?
Although the stone carvings can't be altered,
the craftsman deliberately sculpted this chicken-raising maiden
into a gentle and beautiful figure.
Namo-san, what an exquisite game of strategy. Listening to it makes me crave
a crazy Thursday deal.
Moving forward, we approach the end of the Building Mountain carvings. This is the illustration of Liu Benzang's deeds. As a devotee of this master of esoteric Buddhism, Dao Zhaifeng naturally couldn't miss out
creating
on
a stone carving specifically for Liu Benzhen. In fact, historical records about Liu Benzhen are extremely scarce. The stone carvings in the Dazu and Enyu regions are important materials for studying Liu Benzhen's history. The central figure carved here is Liu Benzhen himself, and on either side, his most famous achievements are depicted. Namely, the 10 severe practices that Liu Benzhen undertook in his life. As a high-ranking monk of esoteric Buddhism, the methods of ascetic practice during Liu Benzhen's time, from today's perspective, can be described as quite horrifying.
The so-called 10 refinements include burning fingers, standing in snow, burning ankles, gouging eyes, cutting ears, burning the heart, burning the top of the head, sacrificing arms, burning the sudi and knees.
Oh my goodness.
Just hearing about it makes me ache. Some of these terms, I feel like I can't even elaborate on them, or they won't pass the review.
It's absolutely hardcore. In all upcoming videos after this solo trip, there will be a more detailed depiction of Liu Benzhen's 10 refinements. We'll continue discussing it then.
To the left of the illustration of deeds, there are also carvings of the 10 great Vidyarajas.
These figures here represent the more traditional image of the Vidyarajas.
The Dazu stone carvings look incredibly majestic and fierce.
But upon closer inspection,
you'll notice that several of these Vidyarajas were actually left unfinished. Many are only the upper body.
Clearly something was meant to be carved below, and this became a great regret in history.
Yes, the Bodingshan rock carvings. This entire magnificent and spectacular artistic masterpiece
actually wasn't fully completed.
The reasons for its incompletion are widely debated,
but the mainstream view is that
it was affected by the Mongol invasion of the southern Tang Dynasty.
According to records, the Dazu Rock Carvings began in 1174, taking over 70 years to construct.
By the end of its construction period,
it coincided almost exactly with the Mongol offensive, reaching the Sichuan Chongqing region.
The Baodingshan project
may have been forced to halt because of this. Perhaps no matter how awe-inspiring
great art may be, in the face of historical currents,
it ultimately becomes just a trivial footnote.
But when the waves wash away, when the stories of those legendary heroes fade into history,
perhaps only through these frozen moments of the past
can later generations truly catch a glimpse
of fragments and whispers from bygone eras. And this, one might say, is the unique charm of ancient architecture.
Now finally,
after visiting Baodingshan, don't forget to stop by the nearby Shengshou Temple. They offer a 5 yuan vegetarian meal at noon every day.
Surprisingly, it's quite tasty. If you tour at a brisk pace in the morning, you can 正好 come for lunch at noon. Well then, that's all.
That wraps up the Dazu Baodingshan Rock Carving.